My name is Mia Cunningham. This is my second fashion show, and my collection is on the loss of women's reproductive organs. I'm doing this because when I was 3 months old, I had an entorced ovary. This is when an ovary twists off and dies due to loss of blood circulation. When I found out years later what happened to me, I was crushed. I've always been the type of person that knew that one day they were going to want to have kids, and now my chance of that had just gone down by 50%. This year has been the first year that I've told anyone outside of my family. I decided that instead of hiding this experience I had, I should use it to raise awareness about torched ovaries. In my collection, I use the emotions of vulnerability and loss when designing to show how exposed you can feel with an experience like this.
My name is Amir Maxwell Weekly. This is my first fashion show, and my topic is fast fashion. I believe that fast fashion brands like Supreme and Off-White are ruining the fashion industry. Why spend $100 on a t-shirt that says Supreme when you can make it? And people will spend this money because there's a name behind it. A lot of people think the name is so cool anyway. The first 2 looks are done with a heat press machine. It takes 5 minutes to print a name. The last piece is the direct opposite of this. It represents me as a designer, not just a brand name.
My name is Madeleine Shows. This is my second fashion show, and the theme of my collection is body dysmorphia. For my collection, I wanted to display the feeling and symptoms of body dysmorphic disorder in a visual medium. My goal with this collection was to distort the shape of the body to portray the warped view one has of themselves.
My name is Lilli Abrons. This is my first fashion show, and the purpose of my collection is to bring awareness to the mistreatment of models. After reading articles and learning more about the dangers of underage modeling, I wanted to create beautiful clothes for my younger models that don't demean or sexualize them. I read and heard from models about their experiences with sexual abuse and uncomfortable situations. As someone interested in the fashion world, I want to strive to treat my models with respect and make sure others do the same.
My name is Helena Sai, and this is my first fashion show. My collection is based around the constriction of the body for the sake of sexualization. I wanted to explore the complexities of how women are often goaded by societal expectations to alter and constrict certain portions of their bodies in order to be seen as sexually appealing. I explored a lot of ways in which the body can become a kind of trap for people, stuck in a loop of altering themselves to appeal to others. And in contrast, how a disconnect from worry over outer appearance can lead to freedom in other aspects of life. In order to display that duality within my work, I tried to show fluidity and movement in areas not touched by constriction, as a way of showing confidence when there is not worry of judgment from the outside world.
Hello, my name is Margot Le Duy, and this is my second fashion show. I have decided to do my fashion show on my illness that is called dysautonomia, or POTS, which stands for postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. It basically makes me very tired and very nauseated, and it makes day-to-day activities very hard to do. I was first planning on doing 4 pieces, but because I had a flare in my symptoms, I have to cut that down to 2. And my goal in my designs is to make it feel how it feels to have that certain symptom. For example, I'm doing dizziness, and the outfit is weirdly proportioned to make you feel kind of weird when you're wearing it, like you're walking on like uneven ground. And my other outfit is fatigue, and it's a very long cape to make it hard to walk and kind of show how it feels when I'm just walking around school, for example. I hope to raise awareness too, because it is not a very known illness, but a lot of teenagers, especially teenage girls, have it and are often misdiagnosed with anxiety and just being a teenager, which is a shame because it is a disability.
My name is Gabrielle Manion, and this will be my first fashion show, and my collection is a representation on how women feel when society regulates what they can and cannot wear. I constructed 2 pieces that portray the feelings of being weighed down and trapped by the norms society has created. I did this by taking pieces from historical time periods and layered them to imitate these emotions and forms of restraint. I decided to use materials such as leather, quilted pants, and hooping wire to resemble heaviness and immobility.
My name is Kaitlyn Nicholas. This is my second fashion show, and my collection is about blending clothing and material with gendered connotations. I took pieces that are considered male in the fashion industry, like suits and ties, and mixed them with a female silhouette and vice versa. I wasn't going for androgyny, a style that isn't male or female, but instead a concept that simply questioned the act gendering pieces of fabric. I continued by categorizing fabric manipulation like pleating into gendered groups. By the end of the process, I primarily took fabric and patterns and placed them with silhouettes that corresponded to the opposite gender and their stereotypes. As I grow up, this concept becomes more and more important to me as I slowly dress in clothing with masculine stereotypes attached. I began to stop wearing skirts and dresses and swap them with jeans and button-ups. I felt like I had to decide whether to dress more masculine or feminine instead of simply dressing how I wanted to. By allowing myself more freedom from these stereotypes, I've been able to be as true to myself as I can.
My name is Cheyenne Lewis. This is my second fashion show, and my collection focuses on the lack of diversity represented in the fashion industry. I think this is important because when women of color in different shapes and sizes do not see someone who looks like them in the fashion industry, it can lead them to believe they are not good enough or beautiful enough. Sometimes women of color's natural features are treated as if they are a trend in fashion and beauty, like when Marc Jacobs' 2017 spring collection had faux dreadlocks on non-black models. He could have avoided any form of cultural appropriation by using models of African descent, all while representing the black community in the fashion industry. More diversity in the fashion industry not only encourages confidence in people of all types, but prevents cultural appropriation. I achieved this in my collection by having models who have different body types and ethnicities.
Hello, my name is Sabina Jolis. This is my second fashion show, and my collection is about skin. I wanted to explore the natural human body in different perspectives so I can play with the idea of adornment. I wanted to focus on adornment so I could work with many different mediums, including fabric, makeup, jewelry, and paint, giving me the liberty to experiment with color theory and illusions of exposure. This way I can use the canvas for many different mediums. Typically in the US, it's not socially acceptable, especially for women, to wear something revealing. In this way, I can push the boundaries of what is and what isn't okay to wear in the public. What I'm going to be doing is creating a nude bodysuit, in other words, a layer of skin or skin suit, so I can have the ability to apply whatever adornment I find visually appealing.
My name is Mary Elsbury. This is my third fashion show, and my collection is a commentary on nudity in American society. If I wasn't a high school student with underage models, I would have made my designs more revealing, because the rules about gender and which body parts can be exposed is interesting to me. Even when you stop short of nudity, American society makes so many judgments. Young women who go braless in school often find others claim they are distracting. Of course, girls also receive unwanted comments on their appearance. Americans have a real problem with the unclothed body.
My name is Michaela Maloney. This is my second fashion show, and my collection is about masculine and feminine expression through an art history lens. I decided to juxtapose the idealized female beauty of the Renaissance with the rugged masculinity of the Great Depression, as an exploration of glorified gender expressions. I use contrasting motifs found in Renaissance paintings and Depression portraiture in order to illustrate the polarity of these time periods. I chose this topic because of my interest in art history and how past art influences our modern understanding of gender and identity.
My name is Lilli Fore. This is my second fashion show, and my collection is about the menstrual cycle as told through origami structures. The 4 pieces of my collection represent the 4 phases of the menstrual cycle. The first look is based on the bleeding phase. The garment is loose and lacks the structure that the rest of the collection has. The next piece is based off of the follicular phase. During this phase, the uterine lining thickens. In this piece, I explore the interplay between a rigid origami structure and a more subtle flowing form. The third piece is based on ovulation, the time in the cycle when an egg is released and higher levels of hormones are flowing throughout the body. So this piece takes up a lot of space and is meant to be empowering. The fourth piece is the most complex. It's based on the luteal phase, the phase right before the cycle starts over again. I started designing my collection through a scientific lens. However, the collection has developed into my own experiences and relationships with having a period. Periods are so often stigmatized, and people who have periods are often made to feel ashamed of menstruation. I wanted to change preconceived notions about periods. For example, the false notion that gender and periods are always related, or that menstruation creates irrational behavior. This collection has helped me to explore and accept my own relationships with periods.
My name is Tehya Ruiz. This is my second fashion show, and my collection is about hereditary trauma in the African American community. I decided to use hereditary trauma as a theme of my collection to bring awareness to it and honestly help me have a better understanding of the theory and its impact on my life as a woman of color, as well as understanding the legacy of slavery and what that means to me. This is shown in my collection through the color schemes boasting blood and wine-flushed fabrics, as well as structural references to typical slave master clothing in the antebellum South, symbolic of reclaiming yourself as master of your own mind, body, and boundaries. I made most of this collection by taking basic patterns and slightly altering them, as well as some distressing and hand-sewn detail work. I did all this not as a means of glorification on an era most of America chooses to ignore and refuses to work through, but as a means of self-reflection on a disgustingly brutal trauma passed down generationally. Thank you, and please enjoy my collection.
My name is Tenzin Sia. This is my second fashion show, and my collection is a historical look at the interactions of Asians and white people. I base my designs on the idea that the status of modern-day Asian Americans is the result of historical buildup. I chose 3 historical events, macroaggressions, that changed modern-day relations and adapted them into clothing. The events I chose are 26 Martyrs of Japan, in which Portuguese missionaries were crucified on arrival in Japan in 1597, late 1800s Asian exclusionary laws like the Page Act and the literal Chinese Exclusion Act, and finally, the Vietnam and Korean Wars. I followed these 3 by a thesis piece about the status of Asians in relation to white people today, microaggressions. This collection is important to me as someone who belongs to both Asian and white cultures against historical odds. I'm exploring my identity through fashion.
My name is Maya Young. This is my 4th fashion show, and my topic is an exploration of sexual exploitation and violence towards women as manifested in beauty pageants. I'm looking at beauty pageants as a forum for many young women to transcend poverty. However, often these pageants, viewed in media in forms such as Toddlers and Tiaras and Miss Universe, are exploitative vehicles towards young women. I was moved watching Peru's 2017 beauty pageant, where instead of the contestants announcing their measurements to the judges, announced statistics about sexual exploitation and violence towards women in Latin America. I wanted to contrast a seemingly glamorous world of pageants and hypersexualization with the scary reality of victims of sexual assault and violence. My designs are exaggerated feminine pageant dresses with darker, subtle features such as numbered garments, holsters, and utility-inspired appendages.
My name is Nyah Ginwright, and this is my 3rd fashion show at OSA. In this collection, I will be tackling the issues of street harassment or catcalling. The collection is an internal story of my experiences getting catcalled told through fashion. Oftentimes when I get catcalled, it's an anxiety-provoking and scary feeling being susceptible to mental and physical abuse. The anxiety-provoking nature of catcalling is represented through the chaotic appearance of tulle and the various shapes it forms. The large silhouettes that I'm creating with the tulle symbolize the garment acting as my own thoughts, drowning me as I think of what could happen every time I'm in public. In addition, the tulle dresses and vinyl corsets within the collection are representative of the restricting nature of how I choose to present myself every day. I have to be conscious of what I am wearing each time I step out of my house in fear of being harassed. I hope this collection will open up conversations to prevent street harassment and make us hold each other accountable for our actions.